Hello and welcome to the latest episode from Packaging Europe. This is part of our Sustainability Perspective series, which sits alongside our Sustainability Awards and the Sustainability Packaging Summit. In this series, we talk to leaders from across the packaging value chain to gain insights into the industry's path to sustainability. Today, I am speaking with Prashant Jagtap, who is the president and CEO of Trayak, a consulting and software solutions company focused on product and packaging sustainability. Thank you for speaking with me today, Prashant. Can you start by talking a bit about the obstacles that companies encounter when trying to incorporate a more sustainable practices into their manufacturing and design processes?
Absolutely. And first of all, thank you for having me on this recording here. So in terms of the obstacles, what we have seen is, companies have various obstacles. And when we look at them, we kind of classify them into people, process, and technology-related obstacles. Now, in terms of people, a lot of it is really around training and having the employees understand. And when I say employees, I mean designers, engineers for packaging, have them understand what is the concept of life cycle thinking and circular methodologies. I mean, these are words that everybody throws around, but not everybody is really clear on what that means. So just getting all the designers and engineers on the same page in terms of what that means is an obstacle, basically. In addition to that, what we have seen is the data that is required for making decisions, which is the specs of a package or the design, design variables and the design, dimensions, weights, materials, etc. about their product or packaging. They sometimes are scattered in different, systems. And so having them in one place and being able to use that in decision making can also become an obstacle. And then the other part that we've seen is, tools that companies can use, which don't require a lot of expertise or training itself to understand what the tools do. So all these three things are essentially obstacles for someone to really incorporate sustainable packaging in their company.
And for companies that are designing sustainable packaging, what are some of the key challenges that you have identified that they face?
So a lot of our customers actually, there are certain very simple, sustainability strategies and things like lightweighting packaging or things like incorporating PCR. Now, these things are simple, they're easy to understand, but then there's a lot more that are more complicated, and those are difficult for designers to really analyze. Things like refill, things like incorporating biomaterials, and things about optimizing their secondary packaging or palletization, things like that. Those tend to be challenging for most companies to really incorporate easily. In addition to that, what we have also noticed is many companies these days have goals for sustainability, and linking those goals to their day-to-day design decisions can also be tough, because you might have a goal at the high level, but when you are making a decision about an individual package, it's hard to figure out, are you meeting the goal? Are you moving away from it? Those kind of things. And the last part I would say is sort of the idea of, you optimize something here, but what is the effect of that in other places? So for example, you might optimize a primary package, but then what does that do to the secondary package? Sometimes the same engineers don't work on that. And so that becomes a challenge to make sure that you didn't move the problem, but you actually genuinely reduce the overall impact.
And I'd also like to talk a little bit about mainstreaming sustainability. How can mainstreaming sustainability enable a company to meet their targets?
That's a good question, because over the years, a lot of companies really experimented with sustainability. They kind of had a one-off project. They took one part of their like one package somewhere and said, okay, I'm going to optimize that. But then that is usually easy to do. But then if you want to really design and improve every single package and product that you have, that becomes a difficult part. And that's what we mean by really mainstreaming it. And so mainstreaming, if you think about it, every company's product design or package design process can be quite complex. And over the years, they've optimized that so that they can be as fast to market as possible for their products and package, right? Now, if you incorporate in the middle of all this sustainability, and you need to do extra analysis and extra decisions because of that, that can become overwhelming. And so mainstreaming means, how do you really embed these decisions? How do you embed the sustainability tools as a part of your day-to-day work process so you can make decisions very efficiently? So that's what we really think is important for any company.
Yeah. And, you spoke a little bit about tools. Why is it important for a brand to, quantify the environmental impact of their packaging design?
So these days, consumers are wary about greenwashing, right? And it is important for brands that when they measure and communicate the environmental impact of their packaging, that they are, making sure that these are based on scientific, scientific calculations and things like that. Now, there have been plenty of cases actually where a company would reduce the footprint of a very specific thing, like I was talking earlier about a primary package, but they did not realize that as they were lightweighting this package, that really the damage rate went up. And then someone else in the company said, okay, this primary package is getting damaged in the field. So what I need to do is improve the secondary package, make the secondary package more sturdy. And they do that, and that's the right thing to do. But then overall, what did they end up doing? They really did not, overall change the impact. So they just moved the impact from one package to another package. So that's the reason why measuring, is very crucial, and measuring it and making sure as you're making the decisions that you're not only looking at individual packages, but the whole system. Look at the whole, palletization, perhaps. Look at the, how you're actually delivering the final goods to the consumer. Look at the whole system. And when you look at the system, and you measure the whole system, that's when, you're likely going to make better decisions.
And with this information, how can businesses improve how they measure, structure, and share ESG information?
Yeah, so ESG reporting, if you think about it again, a lot of the good news is a lot of executives have, C-suite, folks in the companies have come out with commitments for sustainability, and that's good. But then what happens is from an operational point of view, when the head of packaging or brand management or sustainability professional are trying to link the goals to what they're doing, that becomes tough. And so a lot of reporting today is really guesswork, if I might be as bold to say that. A lot of it is back of the envelope calculations. So it's not really bottoms up, it's not really looking at everything you do and data driven. So that's the reason why we feel like, and this is, it's just an evolution, right? So I think initially that might be fine, but what is important is for companies to really do proper benchmarking about where they are, so that they know the goals are not just something that was pulled out from the air, but something that's realistic, something that makes sense, and something that they can actually achieve. There are some statistics that, for example, for the year 2020, when companies made goals, like back in 2010, for example, very few companies actually met those goals. And part of the reason was because those goals just were thrown out there, and then the day-to-day designers, engineers didn't really know how to go about meeting those goals. Does that help answer the question?
Yeah. And what are the kind of key challenges that companies face when they're trying to find the right sustainability strategy?
So in terms of finding the right sustainability strategy, again, it's a matter of really looking at not just the simple strategies of lightweighting and PCR content, but really looking at maybe more improving the recyclability of your packaging, or circularity, or reusable packages and things like that. So those are challenging to do, but they are also perhaps more helpful in the long run.
And how can a life cycle assessment solution help a brand achieve their sustainability targets?
So LCA is a science-based method that allows companies to look at a complete cradle to grave impact of all their products or packaging. And now, this methodology has been around for like more than 30 years. And the data used and the calculations have continued to improve over these years. There is even an ISO series of standards for LCA. So these tools are really very helpful to use it. But the challenge for that was they were complicated. So you needed an expert to really help you do an LCA. I think the good part is now with tools like Trayak's Eco Impact tool, we kind of brought LCA to everybody. So you don't have to be an expert, but you can still use the tool to make decisions.
And can you tell our audience a bit about the Trayak process and platform?
Yeah, absolutely. So Trayak has developed the Eco Impact platform over the last decade now. And from the start, our approach to it was different. So we didn't want to create just a standalone tool. We wanted something that really not only an expert, but any designer or a package engineer or a product engineer or a sustainability analyst or a consultant can actually use without a lot of knowledge about what LCA is and how to model things, etc. So that was one big focus for us. The other focus was right from the beginning, we knew that if someone wants to really use sustainability, decision making in everything they do, then it has to be scalable, right? So the tool has to be scalable. How you make those decisions has to be scalable. And so it is important to connect the software to other pieces of the software that a company typically uses. That could be things like product lifecycle management. It could be spec management. It could be enterprise resource planning software like SAP, Oracle, etc. So the sustainability toolkit doesn't exist on its own. And that's where traditionally everybody had focused. So we decided to build our tool from the grounds up so it can be connected to all these systems. So we can pull in the data, we can pull in the specs without an engineer trying to enter it over again and again. I mean, there's nothing worse than for any engineer to enter data here, do something, then shift to another tool, re-enter the data again. That's a good recipe for someone not using it every day. And we wanted to make sure that does not happen.
Great. And can you also tell me a little bit about Compass and the Trayak's lifecycle assessment solution for packaging, and what have been the successes of this tool? And also, if you can also talk to me a little bit about what challenges did you face while you were developing the life cycle assessment solution, and how did you overcome these?
Absolutely. So nice series of questions. So let me try to address them one at a time. So in terms of Compass, Compass is one solution in our eco-impact platform, and that is the LCA part of our solution for packaging. Now, interestingly, actually, Compass was originally funded by the Sustainable Packaging Coalition. So this is a large organization in the US, and a lot of the leaders, brands, they are members of this organization, and retailers are members, packaging suppliers are members, packaging material suppliers are members. And back then, when first people started thinking about sustainability in packaging, it wasn't clear what it meant. So the SPC did a great job of defining what sustainable packaging is. And as a part of that, they also noticed that there isn't an easy way to measure. So as this coalition, they pulled together some funding and created the initial, versions of this software. Now, we helped them develop it, and later on, we took over the whole software. And so now Compass is really a leading software in this area. And the main thing that it offers is it's ready to use. So it is loaded, it's preloaded with all kinds of materials that are used in packaging, all kinds of manufacturing processes that are used in packaging. And also, the most important thing is the end of life scenarios. And what I mean by that is, once a package is thrown into the waste stream, what percentage ends up being recycled? What percentage ends up going to the landfill? Things like that. So we have collected the data for various regions around the world. And so together with all this data, we have created a tool that's very ready to use, and you can literally start using it with like 20 minutes of training, and you can start modeling your first package in it, and you can perform your first analysis in under an hour. So that's how quick it is to learn. Now, in terms of successes, you wanted to know, what kind of success have we seen with the tool? What we've seen is now, again, over the years, the eco-impact platform and our Compass solution has been really adopted by many of the major international brands in the consumer package industry, product industry. So, so not only those, we find that medical, pharmaceutical, companies, they're also using a software, and they have sometimes slightly different challenges in terms of packaging. Now, large brick and mortar retailers or online retailers, they also use a software. I'm trying to avoid naming any names here because we work under a lot of NDAs because these are important parts of their business, and so we try to maintain confidentiality for all of them. But I can assure you, a lot of the big brands or big names in all these areas really work with our software. Technology companies, people who make chips and software and computers, those folks also use our software. In addition to that, one unique thing is Walmart. You might have heard about the Project Gigaton that they announced a couple of years back, right? And that's a massive goal. And Walmart is one of the largest retailers in the world. So to help them meet their goal, they really recommended our software to be used in their supply chain. So that way, when suppliers or manufacturers are reducing the impact of their products and packaging, and they report that to Walmart, Walmart can aggregate all that and count that towards the Project Gigaton. So these are all big successes for us, and it won't be unfair to say at all that we are probably the leader in this area.
Yeah. And, in terms of actually developing the life cycle assessment solution, what were some of the challenges you faced, and how did you go about overcoming them?
That's another good question. If you look at life cycle analysis, one of the big things about it is that you need to have quality data. Now, if you don't have the right data, then all these analysis, the results can be all over the place, and that's actually one of the challenges about LCA. Now, we encountered that along the way, but what we tried to do was really do a lot of due diligence. We license, first of all, the data from known sources, people like EcoInvent, who are gold standards, in terms of the lifecycle inventory data to be used. In addition to that, we also do a lot of independent research, and we also maintain a group of people inside our company who curate this data. So they look at all the data, make sure it has the right boundary conditions so that they are comparable to each other. We also, in addition to that, then we go and get our data verified from other folks, right? So we don't just trust ourselves to do all the right things. We also make sure external people look at the data. So with all these strategies, we have been able to accumulate a lot of good data for packaging. And so for pretty much for packaging, I think we are very good, and we are very ready to use software. Now the challenge continues, because when we look at the product side of a business, we have customers who do analyze their products, or like food products or appliances or other things. On those side, the challenges continue, and we're using the same strategy in terms of just sourcing the data and licensing the right data and doing independent research on it to make sure that we meet the goals.
Great. And lastly, can you tell our readers about the SCORE software and how it is used, as well as how it has performed so far and what your hopes for it are for the future?
Yes. So SCORE actually was something that got developed later. So when we started out with Compass, and our customers started using it to analyze their packaging and make decisions, what we realized were they would take the results and then they would go somewhere else and use spreadsheets to crank out some additional calculations. And so we were curious, and we were like, what are you doing? And so what we realized is, almost no one makes decisions about the sustainability part or reducing environmental footprint in a vacuum, right? I mean, packaging still has a purpose. Packaging has their own functional requirements depending on what you're protecting. So it was still important to make sure that those requirements are met as you try to reduce the environmental footprint. So when we realized that people are taking the data from us and then doing other things, we started talking to them and saying, hey, how can we help you there? And many of our customers were really happy with that. They were like, look, this is what I need to do to make a decision. These are the additional 5 things or 10 things or 15 things that I need to consider to make a decision based on the package. And so we said, well, why not incorporate those within the software? So that's where the SCORE module got started. So we now have a library of different functional attributes. So think damage rate, think cube efficiency, like how efficiently is your pallet stacked. Look at the headspace in your primary package. How much empty air do you have in there? Or look at for example, the recyclability of your package, or PCR content, or is it biorenewable? Is it using industrial recycled material? So there are many things that can be used. And so now we can collect all this additional data. And when a customer is trying to make a decision, they can look at the environmental footprint, and then they can look at the performance across these other indicators. And visually, they can say, what are my trade-offs? I mean, every time you're doing design as an engineer, you're trading off things, right? You're always optimizing the design. And so we try to help them with that. And that's where we found now that SCORE has been very helpful for all our customers. And in fact, today, 95+% of our customers actually use Compass and SCORE, and because that makes it really it helps them to make holistic decisions, decisions that are sort of complete, and making sure you don't ignore something. So that's where what SCORE helps them do.
Great. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us today. Do you have anything else you'd like to tell our audience?
Yeah, in terms of our software, I'd like to add a few things. We've been kind of a leading software in this area, and our customers tell us a lot about how easy it has been, and that has been a goal. So we are happy to see that the software is easy to use, and literally, you can start modeling something under an hour and perform your first analysis under an hour. And so that's very rewarding for us. We have also had, very many innovative functionalities that we've added. SCORE being one of them. I mean, we were the first ones to really, be able to allow our customers to, look at the whole picture. Now, in addition to that, as we are listening to our customers and trying to figure out how to solve the problems, we are actually working on some very exciting features. So for example, one of the things I always say is we tell people how bad their packaging is, in terms of environmental footprint. But the real advantage would be if we can help them improve it, right? To help them, to tell them what to do to improve it. Now, today, the designer does all that and then says, now is it better? Now is it better, right? So we want to be more proactive in actually guiding the designer in terms of what they can do. And so towards that, we are harnessing things like machine learning and artificial intelligence to be able to look at this data and make some suggestions for improvements. So those things are very exciting things for us. In addition to that, as companies look at their entire portfolio of packaging, we also realize it's important to have analytics, really deeper analytics that let you look at the big picture and figure out, for me, what is the best thing to do? Not just like what are the strategies that everybody uses, but for me, for my company, what's the best thing to do? And analytics help that a lot. So we are, again, investing a lot of time and energy into making solutions that will allow our customers to do that. The last part is really, EPR reporting, regulations. I mean, those things are just multiplying around the world. And since we have the data about the bill of material and the specs, so we are, developing tools that will help them easily understand, are their packaging meeting the regulations in a certain area, as well as what kind of EPR tax would they have to pay in a certain region. So we are expanding our solutions into this. So overall, our software is now going to be pretty much a goals to reporting solution. So although we started out helping make individual decisions on individual packaging, now it's pretty much a whole system, looking at the whole picture, starting from where the goals were set all the way to reporting, whether it is reporting to as a part of your corporate sustainability report or ESG report or scope 3 reporting, or however you want to, it could be Ellen MacArthur Foundation related goals when you're looking at plastics reduction, or it could be internal goal, external goal, it doesn't really matter. From our point of view, we are going to help you look at the whole picture and be able to understand the total impact of your packaging and products.
Great. So thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us about Trayak. And yeah, we appreciate you coming on the series.
Well, thank you so much. And I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.